What it do, what it do, what it do. It's your boy Big Val Opinion back with another live video. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that share button. And most importantly, make sure you sub to the channel. Turn on that post notification bell so that you be notified each and every time that your boy Big Val is going live, man. With that being said, let's get into this intro. Welcome to Big Val Opinion. Moderators, with my permission, any negativity in the chat should be hidden from this channel. This channel is a negativity-free channel, drama-free channel, and we are here to push the message out. We will not be distracted. So with my permission, any negativity in the chat should be hidden from this channel. Welcome to Big Val Opinion Platform.
And I just really want people to know, I appreciate anybody that's helping me. I appreciate anybody that's helping me. A lot of people have been there for me. I just don't want people going back and forth, being mad at each other because one person did this for me and another person did that for me. That's what the devil wants. He wants to cause confusion. That's what these people want. They want to cause confusion. And confusion ain't gonna do nothing but keep me in here. But the real thing here, lifetime, as far as quick on lifetime, as far as lifetime is concerned, there are real people, real women out here really being abused, really missing. They're really missing. They're really chained up in basements. I've been in here 4 years. I haven't seen one person that was ever chained up in a basement come forward for anything. But I tell you one thing, before Lifetime came out, I was minding my business. I was in the studio. I was working with celebrities. I had tours. But when Lifetime came out, all of that went away. Meaning, before Lifetime came out, I had no charges pending against me. Nobody had went to a radio station or had went to, a police station. It took a year to put together Lifetime. If all of the things they said I did on Lifetime were true, it only take a minute to go to a police station. But when there's a crime committed, you don't go make a movie on it. You go to the police station. Nobody had done that.
What it do, it's your boy Big Val Opinion back with another live video. And tonight, we're going to be taking a look at filings from Jennifer Bunjean as it appears to the Eastern District of New York appeal. I hope everybody's having a good night out there. The link has been set. It's been sent. Waiting on the people to come on in, join the panel. Let me first start off by saying, what's up, Miss Lady T, A-Child, Jericho, Andre, the only queen. Shout out to everybody that's coming in. Shout out to everybody that's coming in, everybody that's in the bushes. Shout out to you all. Shout out to the panel guests that's coming up. Shout out to you all. And what's going on, Love Unconditional? And I also want to say, give a big shout out to a view from Tracy Point. Let me make sure I get it right. Give her all her credit where it is well deserved. Yeah, man, we're gonna shout out a view from Tracy's Point, man. Most definitely, most definitely. Shout out to her. We will be listening to some of her content as it pertains to the information that we're going to be going over tonight. Yeah, man. Yeah. Fresh off the road. Fresh off the road. At least that's the plan for tonight. Provoke, what's good? What's good? What's going on? What's good? We got Provoke Thoughts in here. Lil Mac, where you at? Sir Miguel, where you at? J Rock, where you at? Where you at? I probably came in hot. I mean, thought everybody was expecting. What's going on,
Nephew was cracking lagging. Hey, I'm gonna get him this nephew, so they can tease me, they can laugh at me and mess with me, but I'm standing on solid ground. I'm watching one of my favorite movies that I keep on going back over, and that is Optimus Prime. The Autobox. Get off me, nephew. Get off me, nephew. That's my thing, nephew. Now I didn't read or follow the comics really like that coming up. That was not my thing. I was really into sport. Um, but when the first Transformer movie came out with a Shia LaBeouf, and they had a space here in Chicago where they put movie set, items and all of that, and that was before Tyrese had a part in it, all of that. And man, Shia LaBeouf, man, that's my dude, man. And it's just one of my things, man. That was a wonderful space in my life, man. When they started that first one, and they end, man, you know what I mean? Michael Bay, man, was the man, man. He was the man. So I was sitting here watching, I think, part two, part two, and just sitting here reminiscing, man, getting ready. So yeah, that's one of my favorite movies, nephew. Transformers, Autobots, Optimus Prime. Yeah, I yield back. So you made it in safe and everything. Hey, child, how you doing? How you doing, my dear? How you feeling? Where your headspace is at? Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Uh-oh. The only queen is in the building. The only queen is in the building. Love unconditional. Man, I've been reading a lot of your comments, boy. You lift me up out of myself. You lift me up out of myself. Blessings to you. Blessings to you. Jackson, blessings to you. Blessings to you. Provoke thoughts, the one and only, aka the prophet. I call him. Man, Andre, man, blessings, blessings, everybody, blessings. Miss Lady T, Miss Lady T, man, y'all hit that like button, y'all coming in. You know what I mean? After you be good and straight and established, man, so we can get this message out and push this message, man. We just want to bring the light to some dark spaces and some underhanded backdoor under the table dealing that's been going on that has affected this nation um, and even other countries and their dealings. And at the end of the day, we have a right to address our concerns, and it's about all humanity. We on this earth representing different ethnicities and different cultures for a reason, for a purpose, and all of our voice deserves to be heard. And those that we put in office in government, we got to hold them accountable for the position that we elected them to be in. That a lot of them are compromising their principles and their integrity for ambitious and selfish gain at the expense of us everyday citizens. That's at the end of the day, in the words of Papa and Big Mama, that's not right and it's unfair. And we're not gonna go away quietly. I yield back.
I agree, man. I agree, most definitely. Um, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna get started and do part one. I'm gonna just do the first part of it, where she talk about just the introduction or whatever, because I'm on a little time restraint, but I have tomorrow for sure as well to go over the other part. But ain't gonna hold the people up. We're gonna go to it. And I want everybody, man, even when this live is over with, go over to a view from Tracy Point and check out check out the commentary that she did on the Eastern District of New York appeal. Make sure y'all go over there, check it out, check out the video. She's breaking them down into segments. Make sure y'all go over there. When y'all get over there, make sure y'all like it. Make sure y'all come in, because she's putting out some good work, as she has always put out
Yes,
good work.
yes,
Um,
he's a solid lady, very solid in integrity. Yep,
so we most definitely want to give her a big shout out.
yes, yes. Let them know where you come from. Let you know she got someone that's on her side, that's in her corner. Yeah, we all family, and we holding up her arms. Yep, that's what it's about. That's what it's about. Well said, nephew.
So
Well
she's
said.
gonna kind of give y'all a synopsis of like how this worked and everything. So just let's check it out and see how see what's cracking.
Yep,
What up, Sir Miguel?
that's it.
What's going on, Big Vi?
Mm.
Muse? Yeah, I just wanted to come in real briefly and just say, yeah, I would encourage everybody to go over to views from Tracy's Point. She's real thorough in her information. Been following her for a while, and I've kind of caught up on some of the stuff that she was talking about, the appeal and things like that. She's very, very thorough and
Yeah,
things,
she real
man. So
solid. She real solid, Professor. Yep.
Oh, definitely. So we're gonna get into it a little bit. Listen to some of the no her, and I like the way that she tell you, like, kind of give you like a what to look for. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? What's going
right,
on?
right. Like you in a
mhm.
classroom, man. Miguel,
Right.
like you in a classroom. Yes, yes. I love her energy. I love her spirit, man. Real solid integrity, man. A principled woman, man. Very, yeah. I like that.
So,
So I decided that before the Eastern District of New York appeal arguments come up on next week, and I believe it's Monday, that I would kind of go back to what the appeal was really about and kind of explain the process. So when they go before the courts to do their oral arguments, they're only given like 10 to 15 minutes. And basically, they've already submitted hundreds of pages of documents to the appeals court outlining their argument, their concerns, their issues with the proceedings, the actual court proceedings, and the verdict that was rendering. And they're trying to get the case either thrown out or the conviction thrown out to get a new trial or some remedy to help their client. And if you haven't been following this, R. Kelly was actually sentenced to 30 years in prison in the Eastern District of New York case, and he received, I think it was a little over $300,000 in financial restitution that went to his alleged victims in that case. So I'm not going to delve into all of that. We're just going to get into what is going to transpire. So Jennifer Bonjean has filed these hundreds of pages of documents to the appeals court. The appeals court has already reviewed these documents, and they've decided that there's enough merit to what she's saying that they are going to take this case up. So then they have the oral arguments where they may have one or two questions, and they'll ask the attorneys, which would be Jennifer Bonjean for Mr. Kelly, and then the prosecutors from the Eastern District of New York, they'll have a representative there. And then they get about 10 minutes to answer whatever these questions are that the justices have. So what I am going to do here is I'm going to break up my initial videos. My initial videos, it was 4 videos that probably totaled about 6 hours, okay, reading all of these documents. And so I'm going to break these down into smaller videos, and and then you can get a better idea. Instead of trying to sit through all that long content, you can just come back and say, oh, this is what she argued about Azriel. This is what she argued about the herpes charges that came against him. And so it'll just make it a lot easier for you guys to follow along, and then to know that this is actually what the justices are going to review, not what is going to take place in that 10 to 15 minute hearing when they do the oral arguments, because they really aren't oral arguments. They're just answering questions that the judge has. So we're going to start in this first video.
So for the people who ask questions like why they only get so much time and this, then the third, to kind of sum that up, they only had these oral arguments. They are mainly for the judges that have questions pertaining to certain information. So you're not going to see in the oral argument, it's not going to be like you saw like during the trial. It doesn't work that way. Pretty much the prosecutor, lawyer, and R.Kelly defense lawyer, they're going to answer questions that the judge may have. And I gained that from listening to Tracy explain that. Because a lot of people like, well, then why is it going like, why they only got so many? Why they let? Well, it's a process that has to take place.
Video, we're going to go over what was referred to as a statement of jurisdiction, which is Jennifer Bonjean explaining why this particular court has jurisdiction over this case. She's going to talk about the issues presented for review, the items that she says is what bogged down the case, and why Mr. Kelly shouldn't have been found guilty because it was inappropriate, or the Eastern District of New York overstepped, whatever she's saying that they did wrong. And then the statement of the case is where she's just going to lay out what the case was about, the summary of argument, and then that's just leading into what she's going to argue, the points she's going to make. And so that's all we're going to cover in this video. And then we'll have a few more videos where we break down this portion of it. And those will be maybe 5 to 10 minute long videos that you're going to see me posting throughout the day. So just want to give you that brief introduction of what is about to take place and why you're going to see all these short videos popping up on my channel over the next few days. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into it.
We know our stuff.
So try our garlic epic stuffed crust pizza, made with our
If you ain't subbed over there yet, this is the channel. A View from Tracy Point. Go over there, sub, turn on that post notification bell, so y'all be notified each and every time Miss Tracy dropping videos over there. Make sure y'all go over there and show some love and let her know how much y'all appreciate her taking out the time to go over these documents, because everybody don't have the time to read. Everybody don't have access. Everybody, and she kind of, help, do the work for you. So if the least we can do as supporters is go over there, sub to the channel, hit that like button, turn on our notification bell, and support our channel.
Starts with a statement.
Can y'all hear it? Because I got my mic muted, but I want to make sure y'all can still hear it.
Yes, sir, nephew. Yep, I can hear
All
loud
right.
and clear.
Yeah, I can hear.
Jurisdiction. And it says that a jury returned a verdict finding defendant guilty of all charges in the government's third superseding indictment on September 27th, 2021. Defendant was, well, let's stop there because he wasn't found guilty on all charges. They found him not guilty, I thought, when it came to the Sonia chick, who was the intern at a
Y'all remember Sonya, right? She was the radio person now, that said, she saw Kells at one city, Utah, I think somewhere. And she came, she said that someone escorted her to a room. They gave her some lingerie to put on. Like, you didn't feel like, come on, at what point would you not realize somebody escort you to a room, ask you for your phone, then you put change clothes into this lingerie? Like, come on, man. These people sat on the stand and made up some of the craziest shit that you ever hear. Man.
a radio station. 2021. Defendant was, well, let's stop there because he wasn't found guilty on all charges. They found him not guilty, I thought, when it came to the Sonia chick, who was the intern at a radio station, who claimed that she met him, I believe, at the mall or something. He was getting on the tour bus, and somehow she made it from Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah, all the way to Chicago, child. I don't think he paid for nail ticket, but she made her way to Chicago and claimed that she was locked in a room in his studio and some stuff took place, but the jury did not buy it. They said, no, girl, get on out of here with that, because that is not. And I thought it was interesting because her charge was more along the assault angle of everything, and she was the only one who said that they were assaulted. Everybody else, it was, like the Mann Act and what else, but she was actually trying to go with our word, and the jury was not having that. They did not believe her. It says defendant was sentenced to a term of 30 years imprisonment on June 29th, 2022, and judgment was entered on, one day later, June 30th, 2022. Sorry about that. A timely notice of appeal was filed on July 22nd, 2022, after a subsequent restitution hearing held on September 28, 2022. The district court entered a restitution order on November 8th, 2022. Defendant filed an amended notice of appeal on November 22nd, 2022. An amended judgment was entered on December 7th, 2022. On September 9th, 2022, the district court judge entered an order directing the Bureau of Prisons to turn over monies it seized from defendants' inmate trust account to the clerk of the court. Defendant filed a notice of appeal from that order on September 9th, 2022. The United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit has jurisdiction over these matters pursuant to 28 United States Code, Section 1291. So then she moves on to issues presented for review. 1. Whether the government failed to prove defendant guilty of racketeering where the record is devoid of evidence of an enterprise comprised of members who shared a common illegal or fraudulent purpose, and where the defendant and the alleged enterprise were indistinct. 2. Whether the government failed to prove defendant guilty of violating the Mann Act as to who was Jane, that was Azriel. 3. Whether the government failed to prove defendant guilty of violating the Mann Act as to Faith. And 4, whether New York Public Health Law, Section 2307, is unconstitutionally vague, such that defendants' Mann Act convictions predicated on that law must be vacated. 5, whether defendants' Mann Act convictions predicated on a violation of California Health and Safety Code Section 12290 must be vacated because the government charged defendant with a repealed version of the statute that was unconstitutionally vague. 6, whether the government failed to prove defendant guilty of forced labor of Geronda and Faith based on an isolated sex act that did not constitute labor of service and that neither victim alleged was forced. Okay, now 7, whether defendant was denied a fair and impartial jury where 4 of the seated jurors admitted that they prejudged the defendant's guilt and trial counsel provided ineffective assistance of counsel when he failed to move to disqualify the patently unqualified jurors or otherwise conduct a meaningful voir dire of prospective jurors. 8, whether defendant was denied a fair trial where the government swamped the jury with excessive other bad act evidence, including testimony from 7 additional witnesses who detailed defendant's unusual and graphic sexual activities, his history of transmitting herpes to his sex partners, his abusive behavior towards his girlfriends, and both audio and video recordings of this conduct with women and men, some of whom never testified. Now, I'm glad she brought that out because I just thought it was so crazy. Because I think the one video was it with Dominique. Dominique was in the video, and then it was something with Lisa Van Allen. And I'm like, wait a minute, they're not even here to testify to give context to what these videos are really about or what was really happening. So why were they even allowed to be a part of the trial? So 9, whether the district court's restitution award for Jane and Stephanie's herpes treatment was unsupported by the government's evidence. Right, because did they bring in some doctor's notes? Did they bring in some prescriptions for the date that they were diagnosed with herpes up until, through the years? How are you just going to give people money for something that they didn't even prove that they actually had. And then, even if they do have it, how do you know he was the one that gave it to them? Because for all we know, Stephanie, that was back from 1999. And so if she was diagnosed, maybe she was diagnosed in 2000 and something. How do you know one of her sexual partners between 1999 and when she was actually diagnosed didn't give her the disease? Like, it's just crazy what they allowed during that trial. Number 10, whether the district court lacked authority to order the BOP to turn over money seized from the defendant's trust fund account to the clerk of the court for future restitution payments. So next we have the statement of case. The defendant is an internationally renowned recording artist, was charged with leading a racketeer, influence, and corrupt organization, RICO, enterprise between 1994 and 2018, comprised of individuals whose objective was to promote defendant's music and to recruit women and girls in illegal activity with defendant and to produce porn and CP. And you guys know what I'm talking about. Defendant was separately charged with various Mann Act violations stemming from conduct in 2015 related to Azriel and 2018 related to Faith. After a 6-week jury trial, defendant was convicted of all counts of the third superseding indictment. He was later sentenced to 30 years imprisonment. Through new counsel, defendant filed extensive post-trial motions pursuant to federal rules of criminal procedure 29 and 33 that were denied by the district court in a 103-page memorandum decision and order. Not that Ann Donnelly sat there and typed up 103 pages, and I'm sure I read every last one of them to you guys. But just like on the back end to be like, oh yeah, she was serious, y'all. She had it out for Mr. Kelly, and she just really thought that she was dotting all her I's and crossing all of her T's with her opinion. Okay. And well, we know she didn't write it, but she had them law clerks writing it. So defendant includes a concise statement of the case setting out the facts relevant to the issues raised in this brief, and also refers this court to the district court's detailed factual background presented in the light most favorable to the government contained in its order. So A, pretrial motion. But before we get to that, we have a note at the bottom of this page, and the note says on September
Now, the note that she's gonna read, do y'all remember like when Jennifer first came on? Jennifer was telling, like, she's like, well, she's just like, I'm putting it on record. You know what I'm saying? I'm putting it on the record. I want to put this in on the record. Even though we knew that Ann Donnelly was gonna deny it, but Jennifer was putting it on the record because
Correct.
she knew when
Correct.
when this appeal came back around, how is Ann Donnelly gonna be? How is she gonna deny that she wasn't aware of any of this information, any of these issues that Jean is raising to the Court of Appeals? All these things that Jennifer is gonna be addressing with the Court of Appeals, they addressed it with Ann Donnelly. And she chose to deny damn near 99% of the motions that Jean and others put in on behalf of Robert.
14, 2022, defendant was convicted in the Northern District of Illinois with 3 counts of production of CP and 3 enticement counts. He was acquitted of obstruction of justice, receiving CP, and 2 enticement counts. Defendant was sentenced to 20 years imprisonment, ordered to run.
He was acquitted of what? Hold on. So y'all can hear that. What he was acquitted of.
refers this court to the district court's detailed factual background presented in the light most favorable to the government contained in its order. So, A, pretrial motion. But before we get to that, we have a note at the bottom of this page, and the note says on September 14, 2022, defendant was convicted in the Northern District of Illinois with 3 counts of production of CP and 3 enticement counts. He was acquitted of obstruction of justice, receiving CP, and 2 enticement counts.
So he was acquitted of obstruction. He was acquitted of receiving. He was acquitted of enticement count.
Yes. Why that didn't go to the media. And that is in the transcript, correct, nephew?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But you charged with producing CP.
Right.
But you acquitted of receiving CP.
Right.
I thought that was the whole synopsis of him spending all the money.
Yep.
I thought that was the reason for him spending all the money to get the tape back.
You hear that, Miguel?
Miguel fell off.
Oh, he fell out. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So for people who want to know about the charges in Chicago, she gonna tell you what he was charged with, what he's acquitted on.
Detailed factual background presented in the light most favorable to the government contained in its order. So, A, pretrial motion. But before we get to that, we have a note at the bottom of this page, and the note says on September 14, 2022, defendant was convicted in the Northern District of Illinois with 3 counts of production of CP and 3 enticement counts. He was acquitted of obstruction of justice, receiving CP, and 2 enticement counts.
Sir Miguel, what's good with it? What you think? He was acquitted of obstruction, receiving CP, but he was charged with producing CP.
Yeah, see that's the catch with the thing. But they acquitted him of that, but because he so-called was trying to get the tape back, or he produced or filmed, so to speak. That's basically where they got him at, and I think they should have just acquitted him on that as well, because it was already stated and said that there was adults on the tape and not no underage girls. So I don't
Right.
see how they got that. I don't see how they. I don't see how they couldn't see that, and the fact that the states, not the state, but the feds witness pretty much was lying the whole time on the stand.
Shit's crazy, man. And another thing though, too, I was saying this to I was saying to Nisha and more other people when they talk about this tape, and people make it seem like, oh, the girl didn't show up. This is the reason, this, that, and the third. Well, if you go back and listen to Kel's attorney at that time, Sam Adams Jr., they couldn't identify Robert on the tape.
Right, and mind you, we didn't learn of what the judge said about the tape. He called it the Rotten Tomato, right?
The Rotten Tomato, yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
and what's funny is she went to the grand jury. She said what she needed to say. The parents said that what they needed to say. Now let's be honest. If you know what your daughter looked like
Yes.
at the end of the day.
Yep.
You can, if you lie in front of the grand jury, that's perjury,
Mm. Yes.
right? So my thing is, you knew it wasn't your daughter. There's no way. I don't give a damn who you are, especially a black man,
Mm.
gonna sit there and continue to work with somebody if
Come
they
on.
did something to my child. Number one.
Come
Number two, as accessible as R. Kelly was, even in and around the city of Chicago
come
during that
on.
time, we
Come
know
on.
damn well R. Kelly would have been under the concrete of the city of
Come
Chicago.
on.
Let's
Come
just keep
on.
it 1,000. All
Come
right.
on. Man.
Number three, you fast forward to the case, the federal case in Chicago. The mother and the daughter gave two different stories and account of what happened at the hotel
Yeah.
when they met with R. Kelly. So who playing?
Mm-hmm.
Right. One
They
said the
still
man
lying.
on his knees pleading to the daddy.
Right,
And the mama said, "Oh, that didn't happen."
right. So make it make sense. But as R. Kelly said, use your common sense.
That's it. That's it.
But the sad part about all of it, though, and we said this earlier, the chaos and the storm that he was around, and he's in the middle of it, he's not paying attention
Right.
because his peace was his music. So as
Yeah.
long as he focused on his music, he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't concentrating on the storm and the chaos that was around him. He could see it, he could hear it, but it didn't phase him because the music was all he had. That was his voice.
Yeah. It yeah. That it's ah man. How I say it? It's the intent of a person with malicious intent who has a dark soul. It's ooh, I mean, they can appear to you to be a person of light
Hmm.
and good manners, soft spoken. I done heard interviews with Pop and other artists from back in the day. And when someone is for you, they interview you, they hold mold, they hold energy, the way they phrase their question, their very tone, how they pronounce their words, their diction is even respectful. But when someone is in alliance with an agenda that's got a jumping cables on their back for whatever they trying to aspire to, their whole energy, the way they set up a question, the way they phrase it, if you have to be a deep thinker and an independent thinker to be able to have the capacity even to take that. Because if you surface level, if you just go with the flow of the wave and you just run with it, you think, well, they showed it in the news. This is credible. This is ethical. They wouldn't show that in the news across America if that wasn't so. All due respect, you got individuals who have and I yield back on this point, have a real core, decent, really sincere heart, and they are naive to that fact. I know what I'm talking about, and I'm not talking about millennials, Sir Miguel, only. I'm talking about people that are age bracket and older. They are totally oblivious to that. Thank God for these platforms like Sir Miguel, Provoked Thought, Nephew Vi, Lavish Lady. You know what I mean? These that bring out Skylight, that bring out these particular things to help you see that. Wait a minute. In the words of Trust by Naughty by Nature, Pac wanted to give you the story that you were not hearing. That's why he sat down with those leaders and those individuals and coined the phrase of the acronym Thug Life. It's not a rock group. It's nothing negative. America, this is what you have been doing and created. These are the laws that you've been establishing. that affect our community, that's invaded and eroded the fiber of our democracy. This hate that you label us to have, this is what you have created. Now you must deal with that. Now we have social media. We have people to come on. The thing with that, we get distracted because a lot of people that think that they have a voice, they deserve a platform. Ooh, I'm gonna shut up and get out. I'm gonna shut up and yell back.
Let me add to that, brother Muse. You hit the nail on the head with that. See, freedom of speech is not really freedom of speech. You can't run and say everything and think there are no consequences. See, social media got so many people caught up that you can go edit something or take a soundbite of what somebody said,
Bingo,
and
bingo,
it can ruin their entire life because you're not giving the full story.
bingo,
So you
bingo.
want to play the game,
Hmm.
but when you get caught up in the game, you want to cry foul.
There you go.
You want to
Mm,
play victim now.
there you go. Mm,
You
mm,
can't do that
mm.
because if you said it, you can't take it back.
No, you cannot. It's
So
gone,
you
and oh,
need to be
it's gone forever.
so you need to be careful and understand that your platform is a platform that either can make or break you just by the very words you speak and the very things you put out in the atmosphere, whether it be true or untrue. Because nowadays, wrong is right and right is wrong.
Mm,
And that's the problem with certain parts of social media is that everybody's running to the wrong thinking is right and thinking right is wrong. That's the devil's ploy to get you confused because he knows you're not going to pay attention to your words until after as it has affected you to the point where you got caught up in the system over something that you knew you shouldn't have said, but you said it anyway because you thought your free speech was going to validate you and you had no consequences coming because of what you said. But guess what? It will come back and haunt you if you're not careful and wise enough to think before you speak.
I'm one of the students in Professor Sir Miguel's classroom. Let me articulate it from a student perspective what Sir Miguel just said. You all, no disrespect to nobody's intelligence. It's just Uncle Mew's way. Y'all know me by now. It is said, Professor Miguel, that life and death is in the power of the tongue. Let me give you a
Mhm.
breakdown to what that really means based on what Sir Miguel, as a professor, as I title him, just laid out. Life and death is in the power of the hand, an invisible hand. What you say out of your mouth has spiritual consequences for it in this atmosphere. It's like whatever you say comes out of your mouth and creates and forms whatever you said. If those of us in this chat and in the bushes really, really genuinely sincere hear the heart of what I'm saying, you know you can flip back the pages of your life and a lot of things that you have heard others say, things that you have witnessed from your own perspective that you even have said is a result of what you said out of your mouth.
Mhm.
That's why
Mhm.
you never, ever, as parents, argue in front of your children. The frequency and the tone and the spirit of confusion and all of that stuff that's on that is deposit in their spirit. And if they are in a atmosphere continuously of drama and chaos and fussing, all of these things that we witness. then look at the end result of that particular individual when they become an adult and they get into a relationship
Hmm.
and they try to understand why is it that every time that I'm challenged to make an adjustment, I feel threatened and I withdraw. Is it because of what we mentioned earlier that I suggested for the next upcoming 24-hour live? Is that because there's a deficit? That's a trigger from a trauma? That is the reason why I retreat. That's the reason why I have a problem with intimacy. And I'm not talking about nothing sexual. That's the reason why I have a problem having a healthy conversation. If that is the reason why I'm already ready to jump the gate when someone says that, and I'm on the defense. I'm on the defense. And I've witnessed individual, Brother Sir Miguel, that's in their 40s, and their 50s, and their 60s, and their 70s, and their 80s that's still like this. Stop blaming it and putting it all on the millennials and the young generation. Where you think they witnessed and got that birth from out of their DNA? I yield back. This off the music. I yield back. I apologize. I yield back.
Oh no, no, no. Well said. And I'm gonna add this. If you think about what Brother News just said, and I want you to think about R. Kelly for a moment. Whatever you hear him speak, or he said something, the only time you've heard him crack and speak was when he did that interview with Gayle King. You heard the cries in his heart from the wilderness that he wanted to speak for a long time. But because he's so humble, he don't get riled up and everything. They made him like he was a monster or angry man. That was a man who was hurting because nobody wasn't really listening to what he was trying to tell you. But at the same time, he has not said not one disparaging thing about anybody from the government, even to the so-called victim. If you support him and you really believe in what he's trying to get you to understand and see, then there is no need for anybody on any platform or any channel to go off the rails on shit that don't have to do about nothing because you in your feelings about whatever it is you got going on with somebody else. If you're gonna represent him the right way. Because chaos and confusion only causes more chaos and confusion, and no one can hear or listen to anybody who's trying to speak the truth or give an opinion about something that they see that ain't right or just have an objective conversation. See, a lot of people making this stuff about them, but it's about him and other people who are locked up that's been claiming their innocence from day one. And Big Boss said this earlier. You got people getting out of jail 30, 40 years later because they was proven innocent and they was innocent the whole time. How you gonna fight for someone and you confused your damn self? Are you back?
Pre-trial motion. But before we get to that, we have a note at the bottom of this page, and the note says on September 14, 2022, defendant was convicted in the Northern District of Illinois with 3 counts of production of CP and 3 enticement counts. He was acquitted of obstruction of justice, receiving CP, and 2 enticement counts. Defendant was sentenced to 20 years imprisonment, ordered to run concurrent to the sentence in the instant case, with the exception of 1 year, which was ordered to run consecutive. All charges brought by the state of Illinois were subsequently dismissed. So we pick back up and it says defendant unsuccessfully moved to dismiss the RICO count pre-trial, arguing that the government failed.
All charges was subsequently dismissed that was brought to start this whole shit off. Is she's talking about this old.
Good afternoon. Tomorrow morning, counsel for Mr. R.Kelly is scheduled to appear in court over the indictments that we brought forth nearly 4 years ago, charging him with 10 counts of aggravated criminal sexual abuse involving 4 victims. I'm here to inform you that the Cook County State's Attorney's Office will no longer be pursuing these indictments.
But they victims though. Nah.
Failed to sufficiently plead a RICO enterprise. Defendant also moved to dismiss as unconstitutional those Mann Act charges premised on a violation of New York Public Health Law, Section 2307. The district court denied the motion in a written order. On July 23, 2021, the government filed a 55-page motion seeking to admit extensive.
I'm sure y'all listening. Now listen at this shit. Everything that the defense is putting in is being denied. But I want y'all to listen to this though. Listen to where Jennifer is going with this.
Dismissed. So we pick back up and it says defendant unsuccessfully moved to dismiss the RICO count pre-trial, arguing that the government failed to sufficiently plead a RICO enterprise. Defendant also moved to dismiss as unconstitutional those Mann Act charges premised on a violation of New York Public Health Law, Section 2307. The district court denied the motion in a written order. On July 23, 2021, the government filed a 55-page motion seeking to admit extensive prior bad act evidence. On July 30th, 2021, defense counsel filed a written objection to the government's motion and filed a supplemental response on August 6, 2021. The district court issued a ruling from the bench, followed by a written order largely granting the government's motion.
So now y'all see the corruption. Everything the defense is putting in or objecting to is being denied. But inadvertently allow the government to enter in bad act evidence, which means women, whoever, men, women, whatever testimony from people who wasn't even, this brother wasn't even being charged for. She granted the government the opportunity to put in these statements from these people who wasn't even there to even testify probably. It's crazy. Somebody got a game going or something, though. Pac-Man or something.
It's not me. I'm on mute.
Yellow Beezy. But yeah, so when you hear her say, these motions by the defense were denied, and then she granted the defense, she granted the prosecutors, the government motion to enter in bad act evidence. Man, what did that tell you, man? How could this man get a fair trial?
Prior bad act evidence. On 21, the government filed a 55 to dismiss as unconstitutional those Mann Act charges premised on a violation of New York Public Health Law, Section 2307. The district court denied the motion in a written order. On July 23, 2021, the government filed a 55-page motion seeking to admit extensive prior bad act evidence. On July 30th, 2021, defense counsel filed a written objection to the government's motion and filed a supplemental response on August 6, 2021. The district court issued a ruling from the bench, followed by a written order largely granting the government's motion. Throughout trial, defense counsel asked the court to reconsider some of its rulings regarding the admission of other bad act evidence, mostly unsuccessful. And for those of you who are not familiar with my channel, who are just tuning in because this popped up on your feed, I have a whole, actually, I turned it into a podcast. YouTube told me to take my playlist on this R.Kelly trial and turn it into a podcast. And that's what I did. So if you want to get caught up on some of the videos that I've done, because on this channel, we basically read the documents and then I might interject, some little comments or thoughts. But for the most part, we are bringing you the actual, we are 100% bringing you the actual and factual information as it is presented in the court documents, but I might sprinkle in, a little bit of commentary, but you can follow this case along pretty well from my videos, I think. And I do have some videos that are not in that playlist. So if you're looking through the playlist and you can't find something that I mentioned in here, then go over to my community page, look up videos and scroll that way. And I think that I'm pretty descriptive about what I'm talking about in the title of my videos. And then when I have some more time, I'll add those additional videos to that playlist. And I just thought it was so interesting when I turned the playlist into the podcast, how many people started watching those videos. So I was like, well, thank you, YouTube. And so we will get the full podcast, the full length of videos into that podcast for people that just want to follow along at a later date. Okay, guys, so that was the introduction into the case. And then
Shout out to Miss Tracy. Shout out to Miss Tracy, man. Much love and honor and respect to her.
filed her appeal to Judge Donnelly. And so a lot of the content, instead of just rewriting the content, she pulled the motions that she wrote to Judge Donnelly, put them in this appeal, as well as some of the responses that the government gave to that initial appeal. And so when I'm reading the documents, it may talk about the prosecution and that type of thing. That's because she simply copied the information into the final appeal that she will be arguing this week. So let's get started. Because of extraordinary pretrial publicity, the district court directed the parties to submit a joint proposed jury questionnaire to be completed by prospective jurors. The parties reviewed the questionnaires to determine whether they could agree to the dismissal of some jurors for cause. The district court conducted an oral voir dire as to the remaining prospective jurors, affording the parties the opportunity to submit additional questions to probe their qualifications to serve as jurors. Numerous seated jurors were either familiar with accusations that defendant had a history of sexually abusing individuals, had previously faced legal problems, and or had seen the highly unflattering docuseries Surviving Lies, in which several government witnesses had appeared. Defense counsel did move to disqualify jurors who admitted they had prejudged defendant's guilt or had gathered knowledge about the case for other sources. Let's go into this. One, it says defendant was denied effective assistance of counsel where his trial attorneys failed to conduct a meaningful voir dire of potential jurors and challenge unqualified jurors, some of whom had watched the inflammatory docuseries Surviving R.Kelly or were familiar with prior accusations of sexual abuse of minors against the defendant. Counsel's objectively unreasonable performance during voir dire resulted in the impaneling of a jury that was neither fair nor impartial, in violation of defendant's due process guarantees. And voir dire is the process where, if you've ever been called on jury selection, remember, you go in, you sit in this room, and then they ask you some questions, and then they bring people in groups and ask some more questions, and then they narrow it down to a select group of people, who could potentially sit on the jury, and then the prosecution and the defense have the opportunity to ask you questions to see if you will be fair in hearing the case. And if they don't think you'll be fair, they do what's called a strike. And they get, depending on the type of trial, they can get like 3 to 6 strikes where they can say, okay, I don't want this person on the jury. Where leading up to Mr. Kelly's case, they had hundreds of people who sent questionnaires. And then from those questionnaires, they got rid of hundreds of people. And then when it finally came down to jury selection, they had a set number of people. I don't want to throw numbers out there because I don't have the document here with me. But they had a set number of people that they were going to consider for the trial. And then they did their strikes, and they didn't even go through all the final people, because I reported to you guys, I believe they were down to like 50 people, and they were like, oh, we should get through this by the end of the day. And then it was a couple of hours later, they said, okay, well, they've sat the jury. And so a lot of people, they didn't even get to go through the full process because they chose their 12 jurors and like 6 alternates and kept it moving. So we don't even know who those other people were that didn't even get through the final process. So in any event, it says the government defends trial counsel's performance during voir dire, claiming that defendants' complaints are vague and belied by the record. Specifically, the government vouches for counsel's performance, arguing that trial counsel actively participated in voir dire. The fact that defense counsel participated in voir dire does not mean that his performance was objectively reasonable, where he agreed to the seating of multiple jurors who, 1, had seen Surviving R.Kelly, 2, were aware of defendant's reputation that he, quote unquote, loves little girls, and 3, were familiar with his prior legal troubles, including his criminal prosecution for creating sexually explicit videos with a minor. Had there been even one juror who had seen Surviving R. Kelly seated in defendant's jury, his jury could not be deemed impartial. Incredibly, defendant's jury was comprised of 2 people, jurors 3 and 5, who watched Surviving R. Kelly, and numerous others who were fully aware of accusations against defendant for sexually abusing minors. Defendant contends that fully half of his jurors should have been disqualified for cause. The trial counsel did not move for any of them to be disqualified for cause and did exercise a peremptory challenges against them. And then there's a note at the bottom of the page. It says, undersigned counsel received the jury questionnaires from trial counsel. The questionnaires that form the basis of this claim should be filed on the docket under seal for use on appeal. So the government minimizes the extraordinary prejudice that defendants suffered when at least 2 seated jurors had watched SRK, or Surviving Lies, as we call it over here. The government
just listening to that right there within itself.
Hold on, nephew. Before you go any further, I just came into Clean House. We have over 70 some people in the chat, but only 30 some people are like. We're going to need to get those likes up. I know it's good information that's going out, but we need to get those likes up.
This is crazy, man. How could this man? How? Like for all the people who want to say this man had a fair, how can you say this man had a fair trial? How? When you looking at, you got jurors like first. I mean, for this docu series to even come out before this man even go to trial, that was enough. Not only like y'all, it seemed like it's bad enough that the docu series came out. It looked like y'all would have found everybody who watched the motherfucker.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love unconditional. That's a good point that you raised. I believe this particular channel couple was personally, I believe that you're right, that they was attacked, and the reason why we haven't seen them, um, need J
Yes.
Rock. We need J Rock to articulate it. Senator Singh did
Senator the same. Yes.
pointed out, love unconditional, that when he started to quiet, but listen to this. Let me say this, Nikki Mo, uh, love unconditional. If you do your history, if you do your due diligence and your research, you will notice that Jackie Wilson went through this. Jimi Hendrix, if you do your research carefully, Jimi Hendrix was taken and held down, and they poured wine down his throat. What was going on with Jimi Hendrix's career and the impact that he did as an artist that caused them? This is something that was, this was some research that was done. I'll move on. Donny Hathaway continually talked about, but they thought he was crazy and something was wrong with him. I don't believe the man
Bipolar.
committed suicide. I don't believe the man jumped out the window. I'm not buying none of that. I'll move right along. Sam Cooke
Yes.
and Ray Charles did
Yes.
something in their era and time frame. I want y'all really hear this about this music industry and these
Hmm.
labels and these individuals who own this and what they possess inside of them. They came to Sam Cooke pretty much with an offer. If I'm not mistaken, you know
Yes.
the Holy Queen, Etta James in her autobiography
Yes.
Mm.
touched on this in
Yes.
deep, that they came to Sam Cooke because of him actually owning his, I think his publishing, right? That was unheard of in Sam Cooke's time.
Unheard of. Yes.
It was unheard of for a black artist to do
Yes.
that.
Mm.
So listen to the connection with him and Kels, and I yield back.
It's a
Listen
dirty
to
Well,
him.
game.
I'm going to say this, and I'm getting off because I'm going to go back in the chat. But I want to say this here. I posted it in the chat. Um, I don't profess to be something that I'm not, but I am who I am. I am who God called me to be. But I may not be here to see it in my time, but y'all can mark my word. God is going to shut the music industry down
Mm.
because what people don't understand, when God speaks, he expects for you to stop, look, and listen.
Mm,
And
Amen.
mm,
for those that don't believe me, you don't have
mm,
to, but you can mark my word. Robert Sylvester Kelly Sr. is a man after God's own heart.
Woo.
That's why he gave the devil permission to do what he sought out to do. But we saw right before our eyes, nothing happened. He's still standing. And everybody is wondering how and why is he still standing. He's going to continue to stand as long as he's in the will of God.
Preach it.
When you are in the will of God, the devil in hell, he don't want your body. He wants your soul. But he's realizing now, I can't even touch his body because I inflicted on him COVID. How many times? I done been through surgeries. How many times? While incarcerated. But when you are in the will of God, you may want to be careful. Woe unto you. Not my words. Those are God's words. So, Robert, Jesus died so that the charges can be dropped.
Amen.
But God yet still lives so that we can see that Jesus is still going to get the victory in the end. Because nobody on this earth can ever tell me they've never heard Robert Sylvester Kelly Sr. in any performance that he's ever done not give God reverence.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Every time he opened his mouth, he gave reverence to God. When you call him and you speak to him, even while incarcerated, he will tell you, pray for me. Not realizing you don't want everybody to pray for you because they're praying on you. But what I want you to know, you keep doing the will of God. You keep doing what you're doing. It doesn't feel right, doesn't look right. And you're not going to get all the accolades that you feel like you deserve to get. But it ain't about you and it ain't about them. It's about God receiving the glory.
Yes.
And he gonna get the glory.
Yes, Lord.
So I just encourage each of you men to hold on to your faith and continue doing what you're doing.
Yes, ma'am.
And the powers that be have not seen what's to come. He's going to shut the music industry. He's going to shut them out. They're not going to understand why nothing is able to come out.
It ain't ready to feel the wrath of God. My.
He don't want to hit you no more. We're seeing it right now, y'all. We're seeing it. We're visually seeing it, but not many are speaking. But I continue. I rest back. But I love you guys. Muse, you know I love you. Bye, you know I love you. And who else is this on here? I love you, love you, love you. Y'all continue doing the great work. Bye-bye.
Hey, all right, have a good night.
Good night.
Hey, you know the funny thing about this? Ever since Kel's been locked up, the devil started to come out in the industry more and more and more each time. The exploitation of homosexuality, all this stuff started to come out right after he got incarcerated. The LGBT is the main factor in this whole situation. Me Too is just behind them. Time's Up is behind them, but the LGBT, yeah, they're the main ones that they are really against heterosexual men.
I want to take it deeper than that and not even touch that. Walk with me with this. Walk with me with this.
All right.
As a individual, as a human being on this planet Earth, each and every one of us has a free will. We have the power of choice.
Yeah.
I believe that we have over time devalued that and not understand the significance and the power that that
Ooh.
possesses.
Mm.
So much so that whatever the person that's listening in the chat, in the bushes, and on this platform, whatever your source of belief system is in the divine, mine is in the God of the heavens and the earth.
Hmm. Sure. So.
And even the creator, Almighty God,
Man, speak on it.
will not overstep nor violate your free will or power of choice. That being said, we all have grew up and influenced when Papa and Big Mama laid down certain principles. No, they didn't hit the mark all the time. A lot of time they didn't catch it. They straightened it out. Why is that? Because inside of every human being's DNA, innately is the tendency to miss the mark.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to tell a child, a baby, that's wrong. We're born when that seed from that man hits that egg of that woman. Before that even happened, that woman that has the egg, the man who has the seed, their very nature is
Ooh.
corrupted.
Mm.
So when that egg and that seed come together and it form mate, and then it goes to term, and the woman gives birth. The divine scripture says by King David
Mm-hmm.
that I was born in sin, shapen in iniquity. My very nature is corrupt.
Mm.
So no one is exempt. It's my point. No one exempt. No one can point a finger at no human being across the four corners of the globe. No individual. No one is exempt.
Appreciate
In
me.
because of in your DNA, though. Now you think a creator gonna just let that be? So I believe in the story of the divine scripture that the second Trinity of the Holy Son of God came down through 42 generations to rectify that happened in God. I just something that I believe. I respectfully, humbly respect everyone's belief system. I'm just making a point
Yeah.
that because of that to rectify and give us a hope, that doesn't negate the fact that you still have an obligation and a responsibility for your thought process that goes into action that becomes a behavior pattern. So
Mm-hmm.
now in this society, we have laws. We have
Preach.
laws that govern us. Because if we didn't have rules and regulations and policy and laws and these boundaries, these principles, that can you imagine the havoc on planet Earth
Mm.
across all corners of the globe because of the intent of certain men and women's heart that's corrupted who utilize their free will and power of choice. We see it in New York when our brother was sentenced with 30 years. We even seen it in Chicago when this particular group was struggling with the decision. Yet he did like Pilate did in Christ Jesus' day. And I yield back to my nephew back because of the influence of the politics and the pressure of society. He went against his very conscience when he examined fully and told the leaders. And that day, they represented the Supreme Court. The Sanhedrin was just like the Supreme Court today. So when you hear the Sanhedrin in Christ's day, that's equivalent to the Supreme Court today. That's who they were.
Yeah.
That's who they were.
Yeah.
Even he told them, "Why you? I don't even fight. Ain't nothing wrong. Why are you wrong with me? Power of choice, power of choice, free will, power of choice and free will. So we have an obligation and responsibility as citizens of this country across the four corners of the globe to stand up and say that is not right. That is not in harmony with our forefathers and what their original intent is for this country and for our democracy. You are mishandling and finagling and finessing and disrespecting the pillars of our foundation of our country.
Yes.
We see it in the Fannie Mae case.
Yes.
How long are we going to sit along on the sideline and watch the democracy of our country burn to the ground?
Lord, how long?
This is Uncle Me Black. Now you're back to Big Doc.
Yeah, we got. Well, I got about 10 more minutes in me, so.
That's some good stuff.
Well, but I only came back for one thing because I don't know if people understood what I said. When I said a man after God's own heart, I only know I hope people understand. Even David himself, when he gave him that name, the man after God's own heart. Remember, David still was a sinner because we're all sinners saved by grace through faith.
Yes, ma'am.
And because of that, that still does not negate the fact when God changed your name. Just because he changed your name does not mean that you're still not going to be the person you were before your name was changed.
Right.
So when you are in the will of God, that means that you are trying to align yourself to do what God has called you into this world to do. It does not mean that you may fall down, but you're not going to stay down. You will get back up again. And the reason why you're not going to go all the way down is because you are in the will of God. And when you are in the will of God, he's not going to allow that to happen to you. No, he is not Jesus. He will never be Jesus. There is only one perfect man that has ever walked the face of this earth, and that is Jesus Christ, our Lord.
Amen. Amen.
And my brother, when you talked about the Sanhedrin Council, oh my God, that was definitely the judge in Chicago. He wanted to do what's right. He didn't want Robert's blood on his hand. But he didn't have no other choice because of the role and responsibility that he placed himself in.
He still had a choice. He still had a choice.
See, that was something. He still had a choice. He had a choice, but my choice would have been, I'd have stepped down. I'd have stepped out the way.
Some people are not willing to do that. Pilate did not want to step out of his position and all of that brought. And this is for another live. Shout out to, I want y'all to send up prayers for Mrs. Bonjean. Please send up prayers and a covering for Mr. Kelly's children.
Yes.
Please, please spend time with the children and the mother of his children.
Yes.
That God touched the heart of her
Yes.
for the sake of her children, that she has a change of heart for the sake of her children. Whatever that looks like, whatever that means. My nephew Big Vi has been on a long trip. He has drove many hours.
Yes, he has.
Your prayers and put in the chat if you have something. Nephew is not really look for none. Nephew is solid. He's a good. However, if you want to appreciate and get a love gift, just something to say, nephew Vi, this might not be much, but for you taking the time out,
Yes.
going to visit your father and your family to do what you need to do, and still trying to do a live, still reach out to your platform family, and then traveling all the way back home to get things in order, and still doing this live like that. Let's just send prayers up to my nephew Vi.
Yes.
Nephew is extremely tired. His
Yes.
mind is tired, and yet his heart is still his passion. Wanted to come on and fellowship with the family, but nephew needs to set aside. He needs to rest. He needs to get around his children. He needs to relax. Let's
Yes.
send in the chat. Let's send some hearts up for nephew back.
Please do.
Let me see
Please
some
do.
hearts in the chat. Let me
And
see
if
a
you
lot of
can
hearts
just
in the
send
chat.
$1, $2, $3, it does not matter. Something, every
Yeah,
bit
you
happens.
looking for nothing. Nephew is not on that. He's a solid cat with
He
his.
is.
That's
That's
my
not him.
nephew.
That's me,
If
and that's my
you
uncle.
you want to say nephew Vi, love you. Just something to say. Thank you. I appreciate that. You got a lot on your heart, and I yield back to my nephew Vi. We love you, nephew Vi.
We love you, baby,
Oh
and
yeah,
you know your auntie love you, and I got you. And I'll talk to
most
you guys
definitely.
later.
All
Okay,
right.
Nick.
All right. Bye
Okay.
bye.
Thank you, Nizimo. Most
Okay,
definitely.
baby. I got
You
you,
know, I
sweetie.
come on because one thing. If I give my word and say I'm gonna do something, that's just how I was raised. That goes
Your
to my
word is your bond,
blood,
honey.
you know. And I say when I get home, I'm gonna come on here because the biggest part, Tracy has done the biggest part. She's
Yeah,
read everything.
yeah. I love
So
her. Love her, man.
if I could just play the video, then hey,
Right,
we good. But
right.
also, Derek, I was hoping for Derek to be here, Lil Mac, J Rock,
Hmm.
but I understand, other obligations people do
Yes,
have.
sir. Yes,
Uh,
sir.
but let me see. So I got about 10 minutes before it's 12 o'clock y'all time. So
Okay.
I'm gonna play the video for about 10 minutes. And we already heard, for the people who listening. So y'all need to write down the first one of the issues that Jennifer pointed out was the jury selection.
Okay.
You know, you got bad jurors on the jury selection.
That's number one.
That's number one. So that's what we at right now. So I'm finna get ready to press play. So y'all got the jury selection is number one, but is one part. So when I'm finna press play and I'm gonna let it play. But when she touch a different point, I'm gonna stop it and say, hey, well, now she's talking about this issue. So the
Okay.
jury selection was one issue, and we're gonna continue the video and we're gonna continue the video and ask that.
On appeal. So the government minimizes the extraordinary prejudice that defendants suffered when at least two seated jurors had watched SRK, or Surviving Lies, as we call it over here. The government even claims that there was something strategic about trial counsel's decision to seat these jurors. The government is nothing short of absurd. The court need only watch the embedded sample clips of Surviving Lies to conclude that no possible trial strategy exists for failing to move to disqualify jurors 3 and 5 for cause. The government's efforts at constructing a trial strategy are unpersuasive. Surviving Lies is a docuseries consisting of 11 episodes that graphically detail claims of sexual abuse against the defendant by numerous women. Some of the information communicated in the docuseries was presented at defendant's trial, but much of it was not. Indeed, the docuseries highlights the stories of scores of women who claim to have been victims of sexual abuse and offers no countervailing viewpoint. A large part of the documentary details defendant's prior criminal case that involved allegations of abuse of a 14-year-old, which included allegations that he videotaped himself urinating on this person. It is nothing short of mind-blowing that defense counsel acquiesced to the seating of jurors who came to the case with this highly prejudicial information that no human being could have put aside. Trial counsel's decision to seat these jurors is particularly troublesome where there was simply no reason to do so. Although the documentary was popular, it would not have been difficult to impanel a jury that did not include individuals who had seen the docuseries. Moreover, there is little doubt that the court would have granted defense counsel's motion for cause to disqualify any jurors who had seen the docuseries or were familiar with his prior criminal prosecution, probably with no objection from the government had defense counsel simply asked. And then there are notes on the previous page, so they include three YouTube videos, I'm assuming, that have to do with Surviving Lies. And then it says in the third note, Surviving Lies can be live streamed on several platforms, including Netflix and Amazon Prime. Defendant is unable to attach the docuseries to this pleading without violating copyright laws, but refers this court to the docuseries and relies on the full docuseries in support of this claim. The YouTube links provided in footnote 1 is a small fraction of the type of information at least 2 jurors possessed prior to being seated as jurors. So, I guess I have to go back and look at those and see what that is. So it goes on to say, defendant contends that counsel's on the record performance is objectively unreasonable where no possible trial strategy exists for loading the jury up with people who are exposed to undeniably prejudicial bad act evidence, much of which would not have been admissible at trial. To the extent the government contends that the defendant himself agreed to seating these jurors, it is dead wrong. As set forth in the attached declaration, defendant was provided no opportunity to review the juror questionnaires prior to trial and considered himself a bystander during this critical stage at trial. Defendant explains that he played no meaningful role in the jury selection process and that when he attempted to assert himself and express his concerns about jurors who had watched the docuseries, his concerns were dismissed. Indeed, defendant had no idea that at least 2 jurors who decided his guilt had watched the documentary. Defendant declares that he did not consent to the seating of jurors who saw Surviving Lies or those who had knowledge about prior allegations of sexual abuse against him. The government argues that defendant cannot demonstrate prejudice because he cannot show that any juror had actual bias. The government does not pass the laugh test. Right, Jennifer. Does not pass the laugh test. According to the government, actual bias is bias in fact, the existence of a state of mind that leads to an inference.
It's the fact that the government is trying to say that there's not bias. There wasn't bias. Like,
Right.
how can you argue that? Like, how can you argue that? Would you
Like that,
want?
like the clip you showed earlier with the Supreme Court when that prosecutor and one of the judges said, "You trying to argue that this is not overkill?"
Right.
It was almost like it was insult to the judge's intelligence. Are you actually sitting here in this proceeding telling me that you're arguing that this is not overkill?
But you know what I thought about? I say, well, that's what they're trained to do.
Hmm.
To argue,
Yeah,
go back and
I,
forth
I,
versus
yeah, yeah. I see that. I see a lot of stuff deeper than that though. But we'll change that for
oh
another live. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But you spot on. You spot on, nephew. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
let me see.
That the person will not act with entire impartiality. This record demonstrates that before stepping into the courtroom, two jurors heard over 360 minutes of victim testimonies, including graphic accounts of urinating on 14-year-olds. If this type of information does not lead to the inference that a person would not and cannot act with impartiality, it is difficult to imagine what would. And then I'm going to go back up here because there was a note. It says, jury selection is a critical stage of trial, and that came from Gomez versus United States, which was a case that was heard in 1989. So it says a whopping six jurors were familiar with allegations that defendant had previously abused minors and had faced legal consequences for such conduct. The government attempts to trivialize the prejudice to defendant, but it is simply beyond debate that defendant's jurors suffered from actual bias. Frankly, even if defendant cannot show actual bias, bias should be presumed here. The United States Supreme Court has observed a fair trial in a fair tribunal is a basic requirement of due process. Fairness, of course, requires an absence of actual bias in the trial of cases. But our system of laws has always endeavored to prevent even the probability of unfairness. To perform its high function in the best way, justice must satisfy the appearance of justice. And that was a 1965 case, Estes versus Texas. And then it says, as Chief Justice Taft said in Turney versus Ohio in 1927, the requirement of due process of law in judicial procedures is not satisfied by the argument that men of the highest honor and the greatest self-sacrifice could carry it on without danger of injustice. Every procedure which would offer a possible temptation to the average man to forget the burden of proof required to convict the defendant of which might lead him to might lead him not to hold the balance nice, clear, and true between the state and the accused denies the latter due process of law. And once again, that was from Chief Justice Taft in the case Turney versus Ohio from 1927.
Mm.
So it goes on to say, Blanchine goes on to say, indeed, the United States Supreme Court has struck down convictions irrespective of a showing of actual bias, where prejudice is inherent in those convictions. And then she cites Redu versus Louisiana and Turner versus Louisiana, and those were cases from 1963 and 1965. This is
Mm.
a case where prejudice is inherent in defendant's convictions because fully half of his jury was exposed to highly prejudicial and inadmissible evidence that invariably interfered with defendant's cherished constitutional safeguards. In the old but highly instructive case of Marshall versus United States from 1959, the United States Supreme Court reversed a defendant's drug conviction after concluding that exposure of some of the jurors to newspaper articles was so prejudicial to justify a new trial. During the
Mm.
defendant's trial, two newspaper articles got before a substantial number of jurors. The news accounts contained information that the defendant had two previous felony convictions and detailed the circumstances of prior arrests and convictions. Upon learning that the news accounts had reached the jurors, the trial judge questioned the jurors about whether they had seen the articles. Seven
Mm.
of the jurors had some exposure to the articles, but all assured the trial judge that they would not be influenced by the news articles and could decide the case on the evidence in the record. The trial judge denied the defendant's motion for a mistrial, finding that there was no prejudice to the defendant. The United States Supreme Court reversed finding, quote,
Mm.
we have here the exposure of jurors to information of a character which the trial judge ruled was so prejudicial it could not be directly offered as evidence. The prejudice to the defendant is most certain to be as great when that evidence reaches the juror through news accounts as when it is part of the prosecution's evidence. It may indeed be greater, for it is then not tempered by protective procedures. And then she goes on to say, consistent with the teachings of Marshall, defendant is entitled to a new trial. Half of his jurors were exposed to information of a character that was so prejudicial that it could not be offered into evidence. Indeed, had trial counsel simply moved to disqualify these jurors, it seems likely that those motions for cause would have been allowed. Prejudice to the defendant must be presumed, even the inflammatory nature of the information that no average human could put aside. Defendant's convictions must be vacated and a new trial ordered. Then part two, defendant is entitled to a new trial where one of his trial attorneys labored under a disabling conflict of interest as a result of her simultaneous representation of the defendant and the government's witness, Azriel, that was imputed to the entire defense team. Defendant rests largely on his arguments contained in his opening memoranda of law. Defendant was denied his constitutional guarantee of conflict-free counsel when his attorney labored under a conflict of interest based on her simultaneous representation of defendant and government witness Azriel. Trial counsel further suffered from a Fulton conflict. Neither of these conflicts were waivable. In light of the foregoing, defendant's conviction must be vacated and a new trial ordered. And it was respectfully submitted by Jennifer Bonjean. And then the exhibit that she included was a declaration by Robert S. Kelly. And then I'm going to go through the points on this declaration. It says, number one, I am the defendant in the above captioned matter. Two, I am making this declaration to provide additional facts about my participation in the jury selection process at my trial. Three, I did not participate in jury selection in any meaningful way. Four, I was not asked by my attorneys to offer any input about what types of questions should be included in the jury questionnaires that were submitted to potential jurors. Five, I also did not review any of the completed jury questionnaires with my attorneys prior to trial because of my limited literacy. I relied on my attorneys to review the questionnaires with me prior to trial, but that did not happen. Six, during the jury selection process, I did not participate in any sidebars related to questioning of jurors, and I was not asked my opinions about potential jurors. My lawyers picked my jury, I did not. Seven, at certain points during jury selection, I did hear that some jurors may have seen the Surviving Lies docuseries, and that concerned me greatly. Eight, I raised my concerns with my attorneys, but they shooed me off. I was nothing more than a bystander in the process. Nine,
Wow.
I did not know that some of my
Now,
Mm.
who is responsible for the jury selection again?
Huh.
Steve Greenberg, right?
Mm. I'm sorry, nephew. They should be disbarred. I'm sorry. They should be disbarred. All of them. They should be disbarred. Yeah, they should be disbarred, man. Period.
Ain't no way. Those jurors, those 6 jurors, should have been on this man trial.
Yep.
And you interviewed over 200 and some people
Mm-hmm.
to be jurors.
Yep.
Goddamn, Derek, but we're gonna stop right there for tonight. We're gonna stop right there for tonight.
Mm.
Derek came in here when I'm about to get up out of here, man.
I know that's right, bro.
He must have just woke up.
No, I was actually kicking it.
Okay. Oh, okay.
You know,
Okay.
I gotta have a life my damn self. I mean,
That
He
shit.
goes
came
with
in the
that goes
chat
with our,
and then
that goes with our question. That goes with our question. I hear it in your voice.
You know, I look, but I'm still here. I'm here.
Your nephew had a long drive, man. He's
That's right.
tired. You know what I mean? He's
Hey,
winding down.
hey, look at here. If I can get back to my kicking, I don't look. I ain't tripping. I mean, at the same time, you know, I'll be doing lives damn near. I done took big vice spot, and I'm 24/7 damn near shit.
Hey,
I'm out here, so you know, if I get to take a break, fuck it, I'm gonna take a break, you know. But at the same time, man, it's really, you know, the injustice, man, that this man received and the ineffective counsel Greenberg gave him. You know, you got to think about it, man. This dude came in R. Kelly house basically and was like, "Hey, where the hoes at?"
uh-huh.
That
yeah.
was the mentality that this rat bastard came in his house with. Where the bitches? Seriously?
Want the man to sign over his motherfucking
If I'm gonna be a lawyer, let me get the masters, nigga,
yeah.
bruh. Come
No,
on,
no, he was working with.
Thank you,
I need the
thanks
royalty
for
checks.
the
Yep.
donation. Thanks, Slaughter, for the donation as well.
These people don't even understand, man. It's we. I would hope that like the appellate court can get this. It's amazing to me how stuff can jump up to the Supreme Court so fast. But we in a whole stagnant scene when it comes to R. Kelly. It's dragging through molasses.
Right. Cause like you say, when she brought up the issue about when she put that case study in there about the newspaper. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? And that shit got up to the Supreme Court.
Mhm.
The regular courts did, you know, they like, it ain't no big deal. But when that shit got Supreme Court, I'm like, hell no, this prejudice. This shit is prejudice, man.
Mhm.
How the hell can these jurors sit on the jury pool and they done read this article about this man while he's on trial?
Mhm.
And they let it roll.
Yep.
And see the problem with that is, like I said, we got to a point where it wasn't even about actual constitutional justice. It
Mhm.
became about the justice that people felt like that they wanted.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you know, and it's all about lock him up no matter what. But it is a matter what because of the 14th Amendment. The
Yeah.
same 14th Amendment you tried to use against other people and you ignore when they come to us because the 14th Amendment says that no person should be deprived of life, liberty, and or property without due process of law. Period.
Yep.
Point blank. And you can't circle around that. That's the gatekeeper of everything else within the amendment. Without due
So,
process, we can't talk about shit.
provoke thought. Do you recall Martin Lawrence stand up, run and tell that?
Oh, absolutely, man.
Martin Lawrence, and I'm gonna focus on this one phrase that he said in that introduction before he got into his comedy set. Regardless of people think about it, I'm not interested in none of that. I'm gonna focus on one thing that he said, give you a glimpse again of what my psyche and my process of thought is. He said, no one, no one is immune to the trials and tribulation of life. No one, no one. And let me add, a storm is always coming. No one. Pac said it himself, everybody can be touched. If you're a human being walking this planet, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you got so many degrees behind your name, you can put the alphabet behind your name. I don't care if you got so much wealth that you can breathe and you can destroy a nation. Everybody can be touched. And when your day comes, if you are participating or in alliance with malicious intent in the core of your heart, God have mercy on your family and your whole DNA. Because then you have changed your course and decided you against the Most High, meaning everything that's good and decent and pure and wonderful and lovely, you are against. When you on that path in life, as Big Mama and Papa said, your days are numbered.
Uh-huh.
That's my
Hey,
last word.
Derek,
That's
Derek,
Yes, sir.
you got your live running on it, Derek.
Yeah.
So I'm finna shift everybody to your live. So
Well,
when
you know what? Matter of fact, let me go ahead and create one real quick. Just give me 5 seconds. It don't take long. You know how it go. We finna get it rolling. Hold on. Cause you say you finna go to bed. You finna call it one.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
I gotta lay it down. I
That you
gotta
gotta
take me out
So
first.
Vi getting old out here on us, man.
you been traveling, provoke. He been you've been on the road. He been traveling,
Oh,
man.
okay. Respect,
Yeah,
man.
he just got home. He been moving up. He been on the road a lot of hours, and he still was able to do this. So
You know what? It's a war of attrition. I feel it. It
yeah,
get crazy.
yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah, but you know when you got the people anticipating, you know, with me, I try to when the people are coming and they, you know, you got their attention. It's almost like a kid, man. You got to make sure you you got to put everything in front of them right then and there, because once something
man,
else
buddy.
distracts them, then they gone. You know,
I'm here to tell you it's real.
Kel said himself, I'm at my best when I'm needed.
When I'm needed.
yeah.
When I'm needed.
I
So
drove all the way from fucking Minnesota back to Columbus, Ohio, man, today.
man.
Yeah.
So now, if y'all want to, y'all can come on over.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Because
So
I'm ready for you.
I got a lot of more.
we shifting everything over to Derek Provoke Thoughts and Provoke. I was playing the video, I was playing some of the audio. If you
Okay.
want to pick up that it's the second video, it's the last video that a view from Tracy Point did.
Right.
Talking about the jury selection. She gonna talk about the ineffective counsel shit. Is on the
Yeah,
second video.
got you. We
Uh,
on it.
if you
We
want to
gonna
share
keep
that
it.
second video with them, then just grab that one and shit,
Okay,
man.
do that for me, man.
And
Y'all
we'll
come on over here, man. I got a 2-minute countdown. Y'all got 2 minutes.
man, y'all go over to Provoke Thoughts. Hold on, let me put it on the screen right quick. Let me so they can see where to come to.
Yep, I got you. I got you. I got a lot of more. I got a lot of more. I got
Come
a lot of
on,
more.
baby. Let's get it, baby.
I'm ready. I got a lot of more.
I'm gonna throw the
Lot of
link
more.
in the chat right now.
So this is
Y'all
what
thought
we get to right here, man.
y'all
Y'all
thought this
head over to Provoke Thoughts. Provoke Thoughts with Derek. This is what y'all head to. Everybody go over there. I'm not gonna end my live until I see everybody head over there to Provoke Thoughts.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Appreciate
So
that,
it's
my brother.
59 people in here. Everybody should be leaving and transferring over to Provoke Thoughts. And y'all finna get that real raw and uncut. I'm this that DMX slipping, I'm falling, I can't get up.
That's one of my favorite cuts. Don't do that, nephew. You
Oh
going into
yeah.
my repertoire. You making me reveal myself now. Don't do that, nephew. Don't do that.
Oh
Because
yeah.
provoke
Derek,
out.
I already know
They
Derek.
bring some stuff out of me that pop come up out of me.
Mad different phases.
You know what I'm saying?
What he say? Hey,
So,
that boy say I've been through mad different phases, like mazes,
yes,
throughout
sir.
my life, man.
All right,
God
y'all. I'm
damn.
up out of here. Let's go ahead and come on
Okay.
through. I'm ready.
I'm on my way, Prophet. I'm on my way. I'm on my way, Prophet. I'm on my way. All right, nephew. Get some
Y'all.
rest, nephew.
Hey,
All right,
Love you.
get some rest.
everybody, Sir Miguel in this thing. Y'all, Sir Miguel in the cut. See,
Yes,
see
sir.
Sir Miguel. Oh, see,
It
I
ain't
got
ready.
up like a sniper, man. Up in the cut. Up got on that camo, man.
I got him. I got him.
Y'all
I
forgot
got
about
him.
the sniper, man. Hey,
I'm
he
Secret Service when it comes to Miguel. I'm Secret Service when it comes to Miguel. I got him. I got him.
yeah. Sir Miguel on the roof, man. Y'all
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man, but
All
man, head over there, man. I know Derek. I'm gonna listen. I'm finna shut it down. I'm gonna come on Derek. I'm gonna come over to Derek's on my phone, but I'm gonna shut it
right.
down now because I don't need my laptop no more.
Right.
But
Right.
shout out to everybody that came over and kicked it with me, kicked it with us. Great live tonight. Guess what? We're going back at it tomorrow. We're gonna tie this Tupac R.Kelly saga tomorrow. We're gonna tie these things together and talk about it and break it down. But until then, we're gonna head over to Provoke Thoughts with Derek. And man, I know it's gonna get raw and uncut over there. So until next time, man, thanks to everyone, man. Like I say, man, thanks for the donation, the stickers, the super chats. If you like to donate to the channel, Big Val Opinion on Cash App. Any information you got you want to send to me, BigValOpinion88@gmail.com. Outside of that, man, y'all be blessed, man. God loves y'all. God favor y'all and show yourself some grace, man. Until
Yes, sir.
next time, I'm out.
Blessings. Peace.
Yes, sir. All right. On my way.